Shinies have taken the Pokemon world by storm. Ever since Game Freak added enhanced methods of encountering them, hunting shinies has become the main thing a lot of us do after finishing any post-game. And for good reason too. Shinies are really cool. Some people don't see the point in going after them since they don't do anything and they're insanely hard to find. But that's the point. It's the collector's mindset. If it's rare, we have to have it. But with that being said, while shiny Pokemon as a concept is great, some of the colorings of the Pokemon are not so great. So I brought it upon myself to come up with better shiny variants for every Pokemon. Now there are a lot of really cool shinies, so trying to improve them has proven to be quite difficult. And with how subjective color is, some of these shinies I came up with could be 200 times better to you, or they could be 200 times worse. This isn't meant to be a definitive list of better shinies, it's merely meant for entertainment. Keep that in mind. Now without further ado, let's begin with the first generation. Starting off, it's the Bulbasaur line. The original shinies turned the body a lime green color, with the plant on its back turning orange. My variant gives Bulbasaur a purple body with blue bulb and highlights, Ivysaur a purple body with blue leaves and highlights, but with the flowers staying the same color, and Venusaur a purple body with blue leaves and highlights, but I gave the flower a more vibrant pink color. Next up is the Charmander line. Unlike Bulbasaur's line, there's a little bit more variation in the shiny colors here. Charmander and Charmeleon both get yellow bodies, but Charizard gets a purplish black body with red wings. My variant gives Charmander and Charmeleon a baby blue color with green flame, and gives Charizard a white body with red wings and a black flame. Next up is the Squirtle line. Squirtle and Wartortle both have a slightly different shade of blue and get a green shell, while Blastoise turns purple with a darker underbelly and also gains a green shell. My variant gives Squirtle and Wartortle both yellow bodies with purple eyes and shells, and gives Blastoise a red body with a blue shell and a brighter white shell trim. Next up is the Caterpie line. The original shiny line has Caterpie's body turning yellow, Metapod turning orange, and Butterfree turning a pink hue with green eyes. My variant gives Caterpie a purple body with blue highlights and magenta antenna, turns Metapod purple to match Caterpie, and gives Butterfree a green body with light blue eyes and purple hands, feet, and nose. Next up is the Weedle line. The original shiny line has Weedle's body turning a slightly lighter yellow, Kakuna turning a light green color, and Beedrill's body turning green and eyes turning blue. My variant gives Weedle a dark red body with deeper pink on the nose and feet, gives Kakuna a more sea green color, and gives Beedrill an orange body with green highlights and dark blue eyes. Next up is the Pidgey line. This is easily one of my most hated shiny lines due to the fact that it's just a slight yellow tint that way too many other shiny Pokemon have. My variant gives it a much more drastic change. Pidgey gets a dark pink body with a light pink underside, and its feet and beak turn a pastel purple color. Pidgeotto has the same, except its head and tail feathers turn a sea green color. Pidgeot is also the same, with its head and tail feathers turning a sea green color, but there's also a blue stripe added to the head feathers. Next up is the Rattata line. In the original shiny line, Rattata gets a yellow body and Raticate gets an orangey red body. My variant gives Rattata a baby blue body with a pink underside and highlights, while Raticate gets a green body with a blue underside and highlights. Next up is the Spearow line. This line is the same as the Pidgey line in that it's just a boring yellow tint to it and nothing else, so I thought I'd try and really spice it up. My variant gives Spearow black feathers, a white underside, beak and feet, and red wings. Spearow gets black feathers, white highlights, feet and beak, and a red mohawk thing. Next up is the Ekans line. The original shiny line for Ekans is one of the most divisive I've ever seen. I've seen plenty of people say it's one of their favorites, but I've also seen plenty of people say it's one of their most hated. Anyway, in the original shiny line, Ekans' body turns a yellow color with gold highlights, while Arbok's body turns yellow with blue highlights. My variant gives them both dark red bodies with blue highlights. Next up is the Pikachu line. Mine is Pichu. Easily one of the most disappointing shiny lines. You'd think that the series mascot would end up getting a really cool shiny variant, but it gets one that's just barely darker than the original. My variant turns Pikachu into Pika Blue with the blue body and pink cheeks, while I gave Raichu a blue body with pink cheeks, tail, and ears, along with some white highlights on the paws, tail, and ears. Next up is the Sandshrew line. In the original shiny line, Sandshrews body turns an ugly green color, while Sandslash's body turns a dark brown and gains red spikes. My variant gives Sandshrew a black body, while Sandslash gets a green body with black spikes. Next up is the Nidoran female line. In the original line, Nidoran and Nidorina turn purple, with Nidorina getting green ears, while Nidoqueen's body turns green and gets pink highlights. My variant gives Nidoran and Nidorina an orange body, while Nidoqueen gets the same color scheme as Nidoking, with a purple body and white highlights. And next up is the Nidoran male line. In the original line, all 3 Pokemon have their bodies turn a blue color. My variant turns Nidoran and Nidorino's bodies green, while Nidoking turns a yellow with purple ears. Next up is the Clefairy line, minus Cleffa. In the original line, not much gets changed. There's a very slight hue change, and the ear tips change to green. My variant changes the bodies of both Clefairy and Clefable to yellow, and gives them dark blue tips on the ears. Next up is one of the most popular shiny lines, the Vulpix line. In the original line, Vulpix turns yellow while Ninetales turns a bluish purple. My variant gives Vulpix a turquoise body with blue hair and tails, while Ninetales becomes pink. And next up is the Jigglypuff line, minus Igglybuff. Much like the Clefairy line, the Jigglypuff line just gets like a simple hue change with a little part going green, this time being the eyes. My variant gives Jigglypuff a bluish purple body with purple eyes, and gives Wigglytuff a baby blue body with purple eyes. Next up is the Zubat line, minus Crobat. The original shiny line gives them both dark green bodies, but gives Zubat brown wings, while Golbat gets brighter red wings. My variant gives them both black bodies with red wings, which to me is the perfect color scheme for a bat. Next up is the Oddish line. The original line merely adds a yellow tint to each Pokemon. My variant gives them all turquoise bodies. Oddish gets red leaves, Gloom gets magenta leaves and a purple flower, and Vileplume gets a purple flower and the center of the flower turns green. Next up is the Paris line. This is another line that has a barely different shiny. Paris gets a bit darker, while Parasect gets a yellow tint. My variant gives Paris a green body with pink mushrooms, and gives Parasect a zombified look with a light green body and a grey mushroom. Next up is the Venonat line. The original line gives Venonat a darker purple body with blue eyes, and gives Venomoth a blue tint. My variant gives Venonat a green body with blue eyes, and gives Venomoth a sea green tint. Next up is the Diglett line. The original line gives them blue noses and not much else. My variant switches it up and gives them brown noses but with blue bodies. Next up is the Meowth line, one of the worst offenders when it comes to barely different shinies. Meowth isn't too bad since you can at least notice the change on its feet and tail, but if you claim you can tell shiny Persian apart from the normal Persian without seeing them next to each other, you're lying. My variant gives them a purple tint, and changes Meowth's coin to silver. Next up is the Psyduck line, one of the most disappointing shiny lines I've ever seen. It starts out so well with Psyduck having a vibrant blue color, but then Golduck's shiny is barely any different from the original. My variant gives Psyduck a silver color, while Golduck goes Super Saiyan and turns yellow. Next up is the Mankey line. This line gets an ugly green tint to it. Mankey's not too bad, but I just can't stand Primeape's color. My variant switches the body part colors around with the limbs and the fur, so the fur turns brown and the limbs turn tan. Next up is the Growlithe line. The original line changes the orange to yellow, which I love, but when coming up with shiny variants for all these Pokemon, the choice for this line was the easiest. My variant turns them blue. Next up is the Poliwag line, minus Politoed. For Poliwag and Poliwhirl, the shiny variant doesn't change much. Poliwrath's shiny actually does, but it changes it to an ugly green color. My variant changes Poliwag and Poliwhirl to yellow, and changes Poliwrath to red. Next up is the Abra line. The original shiny line doesn't change much until it gets to Alakazam, whose body turns a more vibrant yellow with pinkish purple armor. My variant changes all their bodies into baby blue and all their armor into black. Next up is the Machop line. The original shiny line is varying shades of green throughout the line, but I felt like being a bit all over the place for mine. My variant gives Machop a pink body, Machoke a white body with green stripes, and Machamp a black body with a silver and blue title belt. Next up is the Bellsprout line. The original shiny line doesn't change much until it gets to Victory Bell, where it gets brown leaves, a lime green body, and a blue mouth. My variant gives them sort of an autumn color scheme. The bodies turn orange, the leaves turn red, and the stems/roots have a yellow tint to them. Next up is the Tentacool line. The original line is one of my all-time favorites, so it wasn't easy trying to come up with a better variant. Tentacool has a purple body with green, I guess I'd call them accessories, while Tentacruel has the same, but with a slightly different shade and brighter tentacles. My variant gives both of them pink bodies, purple accessories, and black tentacles. Next up is the Geodude line. The original line starts out with Geodude being a sweet gold color, but then devolves into Golem having this ugly brownish yellow color. My variant gives them a baby blue color, with a golem having white limbs. Next up is the Ponyta line. Ponyta is one of the all-time greatest shiny colorings with the blue fire, which I don't think is possible to improve. Rapidash is cool too with the gray flames, but the blue is vastly superior. My attempted improvement has Ponyta with black fire and a light blue body, while Rapidash has green flames with the light purple body. Next up is the Slowpoke line, minus Slowking. In the original line, Slowpoke is virtually no different, while Slowbro gets a purple body with an orangish shell. My variant gives them green bodies and gives Slowbro a light orange shell. Next up is the Magnemite line, minus Magnezone. The original shiny line gives their bodies a yellow tint and black magnets. I really like this shiny, so what I did instead of drastically change it was make the yellow more vibrant and keep the magnets the same as the original. Next up is the first Pokemon in the Pokédex that doesn't have an evolution line, Farfetch'd. Its original shiny colors give it a red body with a yellow underside. It's a fairly simple Pokemon, so there's not much I could do with it, but I really liked giving it this shade of blue with a lighter blue underside. I didn't change the color of the leek since I feel it's kind of ridiculous for an object unrelated to the Pokemon to change color for the shiny. Next up is the line that for the longest time I thought Farfetch'd was part of, the Doduo line. The original line has a greenish tint to it. I played around with having different colors for the heads and splitting the body, but in the end, I felt the best choice was giving them a simple red tint. Next up is the Seal line. Much like Garchomp and Persian, this shiny line is almost exactly the same as the original. They're very simple designs, so there's not much I could do with them, but I felt purple was the best color for them. Next up is the Grimer line. The original line turns a dark green color that matches the Alola form. My variant turns them into a brown color, so they look like chocolate. Chocolate. Nothing else. Next up is the Shelder line. In the original line, Shelder has an orange shell, while Cloyster has a blue shell. My variant gives Shelder a yellow shell, and gives Cloyster a red shell. Next up is one of the most controversial shiny lines out there, the Ghastly line. It starts out so great with Ghastly having blue smoke, but ends up with Gengar having probably the closest shiny to the original. My variant gives Ghastly an asparagus green smoke, Haunter a teal body, and Gengar a green body with blue eyes. Next up is Onix. Onix's original shiny color is this honestly gross yellow. My variant gives it a black color because, well, Onix. Next up is the Drowsy line. The original line gives Drowsy a reddish tint, while Hypno's body turns a bright pink. My variant gives Drowsy a white top half and a purple bottom half, and Hypno a white body with purple fur. Next up is the Krabby line. This line starts out with Krabby's orange turning into a gold color, while Kingler gets an ugly shade of green. My variant gives Krabby a dark blue, and gives Kingler a baby blue. Next up is the Voltorb line. This is from what I've seen one of the overall all-time favorite shiny lines, and I can see why. The red changing to blue is simple, but works wonderfully as the original colors are a Pokeball while the shiny colors are a Great Ball. I personally feel this is the best possible shiny for this line, and they're very simple Pokemon, so there's not really much I could do with it. I tried changing the color of the white parts, but every color I tried looked weird, so I left the white alone and changed the red to green. Next up is the Execute line. In the original line, every egg in Execute turns gold, and it gives Exeggutor a yellow body, while the heads get a yellow tint, and the leaves turn a reddish-orange color. My variant changes Execute's eggs to brown, because brown eggs, and Exeggutor is somewhat similar to the original shiny colors. I gave it red leaves, except I turned the body white, and left the heads the same colors as the original. Next up is the Cubone line. The original line changes their bodies to green, while not changing anything else. I played around with changing the color of the skull and bone, but I didn't like how it looked. So instead I opted to simply change the body to a light purple, which I felt fit really well with the whole theme of death that the line has going. Next up are the Hitmons, minus Hitmontop. The original shiny colors give Hitmonlee a gross green body, while Hitmonchan gets a pale green body with blue gloves. My variant gives Hitmonlee a red body, while Hitmonchan's variant is a bit more experimental. Instead of changing all the clothes to the same color, I turned the skirt black and the top red to match the skin color I gave him, to try and give the appearance that he's not wearing a shirt. I then changed his boots and gloves to the same black as his skirt. I was trying to make it look kinda like how Brock Lesnar looks after 2 minutes into a match. It's a very strange shiny. I don't think there's any shiny out there which changes 2 different colors into the same color. But I really like this one, mostly for the Brock Lobster joke. Next up is Lickitung. The original shiny gives its body a yellow tint and changes the tongue to a darker purple. My variant keeps the tongue the same color as the original, but changes the body to green and changes the markings to a light blue. Next up is the Coughing line. Oh boy, this was a tough one. This line is something I see a lot on people's lists of their favorite shiny Pokemon, many times being number 1. The original line gives them a pastel blue color with purple smoke. It took like at least an hour of playing around with different colors and shades on this one, but I'm confident I got it perfect. My variant gives them light yellow bodies with black smoke. Next up is the Rhyhorn line, minus Rhyperior. The original shiny line starts out promising with changing Rhyhorn's body to an orangey red color, but then Rhydon barely changes. My variation changes Rhyhorn to pink, like that one episode from the anime. It also gives Rhydon a light blue body, similar to that Crystal Onyx from the anime. Next up is Chansey. The original shiny gives it a green tint, which, now that I think about it, is pretty perfect. It makes it look like it's sick, which if on purpose is really clever considering the concept of the Pokemon is all about healing. But even then, I feel the change is a little too minuscule, so I gave it a heavy tint of blue, but left the egg the same color. Next up is Tangela. In the original shiny, the tentacles/vines get changed to green. It's not a very complicated Pokemon, so there's not much I could really do. I was playing around with the different colors for the vines and felt white was the best option. Next up is Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan? Kangaskhan. The original shiny line barely changes anything, which is another travesty, considering Kangaskhan's one of the coolest Pokemon out there. My variant gives it a purple body with a white belly, to go along with some of the fan theories out there. The original shiny line gives Horsey a slightly dark tint overall, while Seadra gets a purple tint. In my variant, I decided to give them both the same shade of green for their bodies and white for their bellies and wings. Next up is the Goldeen line. The original shiny line changes the red color on both Pokemon to a bright orange, and doesn't do much else. My variant changes Goldeen's red to black, while changing Seeking's red to purple, and giving the white a bit of a pink tint. Next up is the Staryu line. In the original line, Staryu's body is changed to a cool grey color, while the gem is changed to blue. Starmie's body changes to a dark blue, the gem changes to blue, and the, I'm gonna call it crest, changes to vibrant red. My variant changes Staryu's body to light blue, then leaves everything else the same, and then changes Starmie's body to pink, its crest to green, and leaves the gem red. Next up is Mr. Mime. The original shiny changes the pink to a lime green. Now I absolutely hate this guy, and no color combination could possibly change that. But I felt the most fitting shiny would be swapping the pink to black, so it matches a real mime. Next up is Scyther. One of the coolest Pokemon ever was given one of the most disappointing shinies, that did nothing but slightly darken its body. My variant gives it a black body, but gives it a yellow tint to everything else. Next up is Jinx. The original shiny just gives it a bit of a pink tint. My variant, much like my Hitmonchan, is more of an experimental shiny. I gave it blue hair, peach skin, a white chest and arms, and a black bottom. A color scheme that may or may not have been inspired by a certain virtual pop star. Next up is Electabuzz. The original shiny changes the yellow to a dark orange. Pretty boring. My variant changes it to a red instead. Pretty nice. Next up is Magmar. The original shiny gives it a bright pink tint. My variation changes the red to a neon green, and the yellow to a pink. Next up is Pinsir. The original shiny is really cool. It changes the body to blue, and the horns and claws to gold. I went with the obvious color combination for my variant, giving it a black body with red horns and claws. Next up is Tauros. The original shiny just gives it a yellowish green tint. My variant changes the body to blue, and then changes the hair to black. Next up is the Magikarp line. The original is arguably the most iconic shiny line of all time. It turns Magikarp to gold and turns Gyarados to red, and was everyone's introduction to the concept of shiny Pokemon. My attempt at improving the shiny line changes Magikarp's body to silver, and its fins and whiskers to light purple. It also changes Gyarados' body to yellow, similar to Magikarp's original shiny. Next up is Lapras. The original shiny changes the blue on the body to purple, but doesn't change anything else. My variant changes the blue to green, darkens the shell, and leaves the belly the same color. Next up is Ditto. The original shiny changes the Pokemon to baby blue. There's really nothing special that can be worked with here, since Ditto is probably the most simple designed Pokemon of all time, but I thought the orange looked good. Makes it look kind of like an orange jello. Next up is the Eevee line, minus the new evolutions introduced after Gen 1. The original shiny line changes Eevee's body to gray, changes Vaporeon's body to purple, changes Jolteon's body to green, and gives Flareon a slight yellow tint to its body. It was hard trying to think of a better shiny for Eevee, since both Ground and Bray are perfect for what it represents. I thought this deep purple looked pretty good though. For the evolutions, the choice was simple. I simply rotated the body colors while keeping their trims unchanged. Jolteon turns red, Vaporeon turns yellow, and Flareon turns blue. Next up is Porygon. The original shiny changes the pink to darker blue and the blue to light pink. My variant leaves the pink unchanged, but changes the blue to purple, to kinda match the look of the Polygon fighters from Smash Bros. Next up is the Lord Helix line. The original shiny line leaves the shell the same color and changes the blue to pink on both of them. My variant gives them orange bodies with pink shells and teeth, while leaving Amistar's eyes the same color. Next is the Kabuto line. The original shiny line changes their shell to green, although Kabutops gets a lime green instead of the basic green Kabuto gets. My variant changes the shells to the same blue for both of them, and leaves everything else the same. Next up is Aerodactyl. The original shiny changes the body to pink and the wings to blue. My variant changes the body to light green, but leaves the wings the same color since I really like this color combination. Next up is another shiny travesty, Snorlax. The original barely changes anything. I played around with incredibly different variants to counteract the original shiny, but I ended up deciding on just adding a purple tint to it. It's not overly different, but the change is significant enough, and I really liked how the tint affected Snorlax's colors. Next up is the Legendary Bird Trio. In the original shinies, Articuno gets a slightly brighter tint, Zapdos gets a darker tint, and Moltres is the only one with a significant change, having its body changed to pink to look like a raw chicken on fire. My variant gives Articuno a green body, gives Zapdos a purple body with black feet and beak, and gives Moltres a white body with blue flames, which is quite possibly my favorite variant that I made. Next up is the Dratini line. The original line is so good at the beginning, giving Dratini and Dragonair pink bodies, but then falls so far down by giving Dragonite this ugly dark green color. My variant changes throughout the line. Dratini's body is given a slightly lighter shade of blue, Dragonair's body is changed to green, and Dragonite's body is changed to blue, while its wings turn red and the belly is left the same. Next up is Mewtwo. The original shiny changes its tail to a kind of bleh green. My variant was an easy choice. A Pokemon as badass as Mewtwo deserves a badass color scheme. And what's more badass than red and black? Yeah, I know it's like the obvious choice for the color scheme, but sometimes things are obvious choices for a reason. And finally, we have the final Pokemon in the Kanto Dex, Mew. The original shiny color is a baby blue, and is one of the favorite shinies out there. It's another very simple Pokemon that I couldn't really do anything special with, so I felt like going along with conspiracy theories and matching its color to my Ditto variant would be the ideal option. And there you have it, every shiny Pokemon from Kanto improved. How did I do? Be sure to tell me how I deserve to die for thinking I can improve your favorite shiny in the comments below. I plan to eventually make videos for every generation of Pokemon in the future, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. I've been Steel, and you just watched my video.